most frequently cited is what's the biological basis of consciousness? And that's what these are about. People arguing about what's the universe made of and what's the biological basis of consciousness. And then I go around and ask people, please define consciousness. Tell me what the mind is. How does it relate to the brain? And people have all kinds of theories without actually agreeing on a definition. So let me share with you my definitions and see if they make any sense to you and your audience. Consciousness is the subject of all experience. That's the simplest definition. It's what experiences everything. Okay, this world, this body, this mind, and this brain. So consciousness is the subject of all experience. Now, if you talk to other people steeped in traditions and they ask them the same question, say somebody who knows Vedanta or Kashmir Shaivism or Buddhist thinking, they would say consciousness is that in which all experience occurs. So this experience that we're having right now and people listening to us is happening in their consciousness. So it's that in which all experience occurs. It's also that in which all experience is known. Not only are we having this experience, we know that we are having this experience. So that would be a second definition. That in which all experience occurs, all experience is known, and out of which all experience is made. Now that is a difficult thing for people to comprehend. So the mind is not consciousness, but the mind is a modified form of consciousness. Consciousness modifies itself into thoughts, into feelings, into emotions, into imagination. So the made out of consciousness is a modified form of consciousness. You and I have minds, but consciousness is a singular. It's non-local, it's not in space-time. And as Schrödinger said, one of the great pioneers of quantum mechanics, he said you can't divide or multiply consciousness. It's formless, infinite, spaceless, timeless, irreducible, mental, unimaginable, but the source of imagination, cannot be conceptualized, but the source of conception, and we perceive, but the source of perception. So let's simplify it, say consciousness is the subject of all experience.
Aussie science isn't just, it's for them.
The experience of the mind, but also the experience of the, because how do you know you have a body? You experience it, okay? Including the experience of the world. How do you know there's a world? You experience it. So if you replace just this one word, consciousness is the knowing in every experience, that's good enough. So it's consciousness. How about the mind? So when people ask somebody, where's the mind? They point here. Okay, where's Deepak's mind? Somewhere here. Whereas there's no little Deepak looking out at the world from here. Right. There's no such thing. There's no entity called Deepak and his mind inside the brain. So where, I just mentioned consciousness is infinite, it's spaceless, it's timeless, it's formless, it doesn't have a border. If it had a border, anything you see has a border. Okay, so you see my hand, it has a border here. So borders, colors, shapes go together. Yeah, separate. So consciousness is without form. You can't see. Okay, therefore it has no shape. And therefore you can't see it or touch it either because it's formless. So it's infinite, it's non-local, it's outside of space-time. How about the mind? Is Jim Quick located in his brain? Well, then which part of the brain? Okay. Now, of course, when you have a thought, you have a feeling, you have an emotion, certain parts of the brain light up. as electrochemistry, but there's no experience in the brain, right? If I put a knife through the brain, there's no experience. This sound and people are hearing, there's no sound either. Okay, there's no color in the brain, there's no shape, there's nothing that we can call experience in the brain. You put a knife through it, you don't feel pain. Any neuroscientist will tell you that. So, what is the mind? And many years ago, I had a discussion with what's his name, neuroscientist at UCLA. It's come to me right now. You're good at remembering names. He said is very interesting. His definition of mind was it's an embodied and relational process that regulates the flow of energy and information in an ecosystem of living beings. In other words, my mind is not just in my brain, it's in every cell of my body, but it is also not by itself, it's relational. I can't have a mind by itself. There's no possibility. If I had a mind in isolation, it wouldn't be a mind. So the mind is always a relational process. It's a relational process, and I would modify the definition to say that mind is an embodied relational process in consciousness. So, and it regulates energy and information in an ecosystem of living beings. You can have that relationship with your dog or your cat, a sentient being, but then your minds is a process, and it's regulating energy and information, including your biological activity. So where is the mind? It has no location either.
So wait, so consciousness is this knowing, this subject of experience,
including
with no
the
borders or
knowing of
boundaries. And so mind is a version of consciousness.
Correct.
And is it localized in the body? At least?
It can't be localized. That's the whole thing. Actually, even the body can't be localized. We can talk about that, but it can't be localized. It is always a relational process, and it's also evolving. And so we learn language, so we recycle the mind. We learn cultural identity, ethnic identity, national identity, religion, philosophy, now large models. Actually, you can say, in the absence of language, we won't have what we call the human. Now, there are other species. Every species has, otherwise it wouldn't be alive. A honeybee has a mind. It could grove, smells something, comes back to its hive. It does something called a waggle dance, which lasts about 5-10 seconds. The other honeybees know exactly where to go for that flavor of honey. Now that's some language that you and I are not privy to, but it is a language, okay, a dance. Other birds have their mating calls and food calls, so do other animals. So every living species has a mind, but also has a language, but it's only for three things: food calls, mating calls, and danger calls, because that's how we survive.
To replicate and survive.
It's to survive. So that mind is recycling through all species. But humans went beyond that. They went not just Homo sapiens, that is, there were other humanoids, they call the hominids, as they call them, Neanderthals, Florences, who had language also, and they looked just like you and me, but they didn't have a language for stories. We are the only species, in fact, there's a phrase in anthropology, to be human is to have a story. So we started 40,000 years ago, we deviated from other hominids by creating stories, gossip, and then of course we created a story called money, which is the most story ever, because human civilization is based on money. It was barter and this and that, but then needed some shells and coins and now digital money. But without money as a model or story, you wouldn't have Wall Street, you wouldn't have empires, you wouldn't have New York City, you wouldn't have anything. So money is a story that humans created, but then humans created other stories, latitude, longitude. These are all stories, and to communicate basically a different world altogether. So what we call the universe is unique to us. It's human. Everything that we call stars, galaxies, is based on language models for what we call perceptual activity. Where is and it's amongst human species with some leaky margins, so you can communicate with your dog, and you don't know what the dog is hearing because it's a different brain than yours. You don't know what your cat is hearing, but you still communicate. It's like playing. You throw your tennis ball and you receive a tennis ball. You think it's the same tennis ball, but it's not. Okay, so mind is embodied, process, and relational. Of course, in the brain, it usually thinks in English, and I think with an Indian accent, but that's my bias.
Right.
But now with large language models, we have extension of mind. We have biological mind, or at least a model. We have physics as a model. We have mathematics as a model, and you name it. We've created a human universe because of mind, but we created that mind from consciousness. Okay, that's the mind.
And they're included in that is whereas my dog survival in terms of their mind for things functionality like thinking and creativity would fall under mind, communication, solving problems. Those are
Yes, now it's the question is, do these other species like elephants, whales, dolphins, very intelligent species, and in fact every species is enormously intelligent, every living organism, enormously. But once you go beyond reptilian brain or mind, and I'll share with you what I think the brain is in relationship to mind. So once you go beyond reptilian species, enter the world of mammals, then you have something called emotions, which your dog has. And by the way, dogs are human creations. There weren't anything domesticated wolves. So we created dogs as a species. And now we're doing the same thing with the feline species with cats, but they're similar to lions and tigers. And panthers, the different species, but the same family. Okay, so once you enter the world of mammals, you start seeing emotions in elephants, in baboons, in primates, very high level of emotions. And we are less than 1% different DNA-wise than, say, a chimpanzee or a gorilla. But gorillas and chimpanzees are not sending telescopes into interstellar space or discovering black holes or all the stuff we do. And it's only going to get better with large language models. People are afraid, is AI going to ever be conscious? The answer is no. It has no subjectivity. It doesn't feel sexual urge or hunger or the fear of death. You can program all that, but it doesn't have the experience. It will never be the subject of experience, but it will simulate that. And it'll do it in a better way than you and I can, because it combines all these languages, physics, mathematics, which no human being can do. So it'll be super intelligent and not conscious. That is both a gift and could be a diabolical thing too, because unless our emotional and spiritual keep pace with this amazing technology that we have created, so there's nothing artificial. Augmented human intelligence, AI is augmented human intelligence, which surpasses any individual's intelligence without consciousness. So AI can be weaponized, just like nuclear weapons can be weaponized, but AI can also be used to create a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, joyful world, which is why I think AI has to keep our emotional and spiritual evolution has to keep up technological development. Otherwise, AI could be used for diabolical purposes, even for human extinction.
Like any kind of technology,
Like
fire could cook your food or
That's
could
right.
burn down your home.
That's
how
it.
it's
And when fire was discovered, people said, watch out, this is a dangerous technology. Or when the wheel was discovered. Exactly, any technology.
So as you're thinking about the brain in relation to the mind and consciousness, how do you define it?
So I think the best way to define is it's the neural correlates of mind. It's what the mind looks like as an object. Okay, neural correlates. So right now as we're speaking, different parts of brain are getting fired up. And fired up in people who are listening to us. So our brains are also entangled. Not only our minds the process, you can't have a brain by itself. The brains are entangled because we're sharing information, we're sharing our ideas, we're sharing imagination. None is produced by the brain. Okay, the brain records this experience. It's almost like a cryptographic for experience, and what the brain experiences is the collective mind. And unless you're an anthropologist or you're a naturalist, usually just the recycling of and evolution of human. But we're getting to the stage where knowing the apparatus of other species, we can begin to make guesses as what are they experiencing. Okay, and not only that, we can extend our range of experience through technology.